In this episode, sharks are attracted to a popular swimming spot by anglers. A deadly trail of animal blood poured into the sea is a direct pathway to the swimmers and 10-year-old Steven Samples. A shark feeding frenzy ensues, risking the lives of everyone involved. Hit that like button and subscribe right now. Welcome to Final Affliction. It was Saturday, April 10th, 1968. Steven Samples and his father Milton headed down to the beach on Singer Island, Florida. The water was warm and calm. There were lots of families enjoying the seaside. Children were splashing about in the water or building sand castles on the beach. A group of teenagers stood a short distance away from the bathers. They were baiting long lines with freshly caught fish and casting them out to sea. They then jumped into a small boat and motored out into the water, pouring a bucket of animal blood out behind them. Unbeknown to the nearby swimmers, this trail of blood lured sharks to the area. The teenagers' aim was to then fish for the sharks for the rest of the day. As the sharks were enticed to the area, Steven and his father Milton stepped into the sea. Steven was keen to try out his snorkeling gear. He carried his fins down to the water's edge. As the sea gently lapped at his feet, he pulled the fins onto his feet. His father carried an inflatable air mattress under one arm and helped his son into the sea with the other. Whilst Steven pushed off from the beach and splashed about with his face beneath the surface, his dad lay on the air mattress. Less than 3 feet from the shore was a steep drop-off where the shallows gave way to deeper water. After half an hour or so, Milton called to his son that he was getting out. Steven lifted his head, acknowledged his dad, and continued to look underwater. As he floated there, he could see the sandy bottom of the sea 5 or 6 feet below him. An occasional fish swam past. He bobbed up and down, occasionally diving to pick up shells from the seafloor. The water was slightly murky, but the sunlight still penetrated the shallow seas. Steven lifted his head above the water to check how close he was to the shore. As he did so, he noticed something out of the corner of his eye. He looked and saw a large fin coming towards him. In a panic, he turned and began swimming to the shore as quickly as he could. He frantically kicked his legs, his fins propelling him through the water at speed. He pulled with his arms, splashing the surface. Then he felt something that terrified him. He felt a sudden and powerful tug on his leg. He screamed out for his father, "Dad, shark!" His father heard Steven's cries. He turned back to the water just in time to see his 10-year-old son being dragged underwater. He dropped the inflatable mattress and sprinted into the sea. Steven was only about 25 feet from the shore. Milton dived in, powering through the water towards the commotion. He saw a shark's fin come for him, too. He ducked underwater and braced himself. As he saw the dark figure emerge from the murkiness, he waved his arms around in front of him. It seemed to work. The shark veered away at the last second. Milton popped back up and saw his son resurface, coughing and spluttering. Steven felt a tremendous pain in his back as he was bitten again. The shark thrashed about, tossing Steven from side to side in the water. He fought back. He whacked the shark on the nose, desperately trying to grab it and force it away from him, but the force of the shark was too strong. As Steven's father swam towards him, he noticed another fin, and then another. There was more than one shark. They were in a feeding frenzy. Steven cried out again. Blood spilled into the water, surrounding him in a dark cloud. The commotion had alerted people on the beach. Other swimmers ran from the water in a panic. A large crowd stood at the edge of the sea as Milton shouted for Steven to swim towards him. Steven tried desperately to make his way toward his dad, but he felt another crunch as a shark bit his backside, clamping down with its powerful jaws around his buttocks. Thomas Fletcher, a member of the public who was about 60 feet away, heard the screams and saw the commotion in the water. He grabbed a nearby surfboard and immediately started paddling towards the young boy. He initially thought Steven was half sat on an inflatable boat, but then he realized the gray object next to the boy was actually the back of a shark as it arched out of the water right next to Steven. Although the attack only lasted a few minutes, it felt like a lifetime for all those involved. Stephen was fighting to keep above the water. He was losing blood, and the sharks were coming back for more. When Thomas reached Stephen and his dad, he tried to grab Stephen onto the surfboard, but the boy's hands were slippery. Stephen's left arm was bleeding profusely. Bright red blood spilled down his outstretched arm and spurted into the surrounding water. Thomas managed to haul the 10-year-old onto the surfboard and paddled towards the shore. He clamped his hand around Stephen's open wound, trying to stem the bleeding. Milton helped to push the surfboard to the beach and toward the waiting crowd. Retired Navy officer Robert McClintock spotted the scene unfolding from 200 feet away. He ran to the shallows as Stephen was being pushed back to safety on the surfboard. He immediately applied pressure to Stephen's wounds and took charge of the situation. They laid the boy on the beach, wrapping clothing and towels around his gaping wounds and tying them as tightly as they could. A can of ice-cold beer was applied to Stephen's forehead and warm blankets placed over his body. The ambulance had been called and was on its way. When Robert had wrapped all of Stephen's injuries, he and some others lifted the boy onto an inflatable bed and carried him to the approaching ambulance. Stephen was rushed to hospital and was receiving treatment from surgeons within 20 minutes of the attack. Speed was key to saving Stephen's life. The quick thinking of those who witnessed the attack ensured he was pulled from the water and treated as quickly as possible. Stephen said that the attack was painful. He was bitten at least 4 times. The shark's teeth had sliced into his arm, leg, buttocks, and back. He described feeling a crunch as the shark bit him, but as adrenaline surged through his body, the youngster was able to withstand the pain. He spent a week in St. Mary's Hospital, West Palm Beach. His open wounds were stitched closed. Witnesses who remained on the beach after the attack saw several sharks splashing in the blood trail that Stephen had left behind. His surgeons pulled teeth fragments from his bite marks, which were identified as belonging to a silky shark. These sharks were common in the area. Eyewitnesses also identified the species of shark splashing about in the shallows as looking like a silky. Although there had definitely been more than one shark circling Stephen, it is thought that only one was responsible for the attack, although some claim to have witnessed multiple sharks biting Stephen. The shark responsible for the bites was estimated to be about 9 feet long, judging by eyewitness accounts and the size of the fin and body protruding through the surface of the water. The shark had caused significant damage to Stephen and left him with limited mobility in his left arm and hand. He was lucky to be alive. An inquiry was opened into the actions of the teenage anglers. Their careless behavior, baiting the water with the deliberate intention of attracting sharks within close proximity to a swimming beach, was under scrutiny. The property owners and local communities were also accused of negligence. This is because they had not warned swimmers of the dangers or provided adequate protection, such as nets, fences, or shark deterrents in the area. It is not known what the outcome of these legal challenges were. It is incredible that Stephen survived his shark attack. Although he has life-changing injuries, the quick action of those around him and the ability to get to a hospital within minutes all helped to ensure his survival. No one can blame the shark for its attack. It had been attracted to the area and was searching for prey near the beach. The murky water may have also contributed to its misidentification of Stephen, leading the silky to attack. Thankfully, he was surrounded by the right people to help him in an emergency, and he lived on to remember the day he almost met his unfortunate final affliction.